Hey,
Hey,
Kim.
Roy. Hey, how's it
Happy
going?
Wednesday. Happy June.
Yes, I know it's already June. So, welcome everyone. I'm Kim Colapreti with Team Diva at Coldwell Banker Bain.
I'm Roy Powell with Team Diva at Coldwell Banker Bain as well. Yeah, so every month we try and jump on towards the beginning of the month and kind of talk through like what's happening right now and what are we seeing. So that's what we're here to do today. So if you are watching this live, let us know you're here. Say hi, please. If you have questions, throw them in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to them and talk about them as we're kind of talking today.
Yes, it's
Kim, what are we talking about today?
we're talking. So, what are we talking about today? Good question, Roy.
I mean, I know, I can say it, but I don't want to bogart the whole conversation. So,
Um, and we just to let people know, we had a little bit of technical difficulty before we started. So I'm actually running the show today and having this conversation. So it's gonna be a fun experience, Roy.
it'll be
Um,
great. It'll be
it'll be
awesome.
great.
We're gonna have a good time.
We always have a good time, right? I mean,
Yep, that's true.
so we are talking about what's on everyone's mind: the shifting real estate market, because there's a lot of conversation. We can never not keep having this conversation because it's a constantly
Right.
changing situation, right? So
Yeah.
we're going to talk
Rocky's on here, by the way. So,
oh, hi,
hey,
Rocky.
hey, Rocky.
Yay.
Yeah.
We're we're also going to be talking about the fact that it's Pride Month, and I wore my little unicorn outfit today just to celebrate Pride. So we're going to talk a little bit about Pride at the end of the show, talk about like some stuff
Totally.
that's happening for Pride, and we talk a little bit about fair housing issues around LGBTQ community.
Definitely. And if you have pride, if you're watching and you have pride events that you're planning to go to
Yes.
throughout the month of June here in the greater Seattle area, throw them in the comments. Let us know because we don't know the entire calendar, but we definitely want to
So
share that
many.
out.
I
There's a lot.
Every city is having a pride event. There's even a
Are,
pride event
uh,
in Raymond in Pacific County, which is miraculous to me. That's kind of a pretty conservative place, being that I own a house in Pacific County. I could tell you, mm, kind of a little bit conservative up there in Raymond,
oh
but
yeah.
they're having a pride event, so good for them.
We
So,
Katie and I got back into town last weekend and drove down to Burien to grab dinner, and they were already having their Pride event, and
oh,
they
great.
blocked off all the streets and all that stuff. So it was really great. But that's already come and gone. So
Right.
hopefully you
I
went,
mean,
and hopefully you had a great time.
yeah, I mean, the first weekend in June has already started, so there are some Pride events that have come and gone, like Pride in Burien and Bacon Strip, but there are more happening that we'll talk about. But let's dig
Totally,
into this real estate shifting market conversation. Now, Roy, I
absolutely.
know that you're getting ready to do your Coffee with Roy video that you do every month, and you were digging up some stats this morning about the
I
demand
was.
rate shift,
Yeah,
right?
and so yeah, so we're filming Coffee with Roy tomorrow. It'll come out probably next week. But it's really interesting because I'm not active on TikTok or in Reels that much, much to Chavi's disdain. I'm sure she's going to twist my arm into it. Shout out to Chavi hiding in the background at your house. But everybody's talking about this now, which is
Everybody.
hilarious to me because you and I were talking about this last month and the
Right.
month before and
Yes.
saying, watch what's going to happen. This is going to happen. These things are going to start to happen. And now, like, everybody's jumped on the bandwagon, which means that it's happening. And
Yes.
so, yeah, and it was really interesting. So I was texting the team earlier today as I was running demand rates, and essentially across the board, they have doubled.
Yes.
So just and like to break that down quickly without getting too much into it, because that's Coffee with Roy. Watch the February episode to understand like demand rate in total. But basically, what we're seeing is we're seeing more houses starting to come on than there are buyers to purchase those houses, and we're starting to see the market equal. So we're not seeing like a big crash. I made the mistake of searching. What was it? Chasing the Market, Seattle real estate on YouTube earlier today, and every video is talking about a major crash that might be happening. And
I
I don't
know. I know.
honestly, those are buzzwords. I hate it.
Right.
But we are seeing the market starting to equalize. So we're seeing homes coming on, we're seeing purchases not happening quite as quickly. And so
Right.
we've gone from 20 offers on every house to the
Two
houses getting two,
or
three,
four.
you know.
I mean, I might be getting four on
Yep.
mine today, but that's,
Right.
definitely a huge change, right?
But
And
there's
I know
also, yeah, 5 and 6 houses that I've been watching with clients that got no
haven't gotten
offers
offers, right?
yesterday.
So
You
just to regroup, when we had this
know,
conversation in January, talking about demand rate, and just quickly, demand rate is the ratio of actives to pendings, right? So when there's
right,
more pendings than actives, that's a sign that there's not enough houses for people um, to purchase them. So the pendings are, things are flying off the market faster than things can come on, right? That's an
right.
indication you're going to get 10, 15, maybe 20. You had 26 on one listing earlier this year,
Did
right?
in January,
Right.
the end of
And in
January.
January, that demand rate across the city was like 0.25, right? Not
Right,
like, let's like 4 buyers for every one house, right?
exactly.
Now, what did your demand rate show for the city
For
as
the
of
city,
June?
for homes under $3 million, it's currently at where is it on here? 0.70. So
Right.
now we're at one and a third, we're getting very close to one
Close
buyer
to one and
per
one. Right.
house. Yeah.
Right. And
Um,
that's why we've seen that equalization where instead of getting like a ton of offers or 15, we're getting like 2 to 3, maybe 4 in some instances, right? So it's
right.
definitely shrunk. The other thing that we should note is that we have had since January, we have had a huge spike in prices,
Right.
right?
15
18
to 20%
15 to
across the board.
20%. Right. Yeah. I think in King County, the average was 18 the last I looked, but there
Right.
were there were some places I was looking. So there was this great article that came out today or yesterday by Heidi Grover in the Seattle Times, and she had this cool map
Hmm.
broken down into like subregions of like price shifts. There are some areas in like, the east side of the county where
Right.
the increase in prices was like up to almost 30%.
Right.
So that's a huge spike in 4 or 5 months,
Right.
right?
And what's really interesting about that too, because I was looking at that map too, and I know it's hard to talk about something that not everyone is
Right,
looking
we
at,
can
but
show you, right. But maybe Chavni can, if she can, maybe she can post the link to the article in the later on.
yeah, and one thing that I thought was really interesting about that too is that everybody talks about like, oh, well, there's affordability if you go south, there's affordability if you go north.
Right.
And yeah, there is, but you have to take into consideration with that the tide is raising all of the
Yeah,
prices,
right.
you
Everywhere.
know,
Yeah.
everywhere. And so what we're starting to see, I guess, like I don't know. And like yeah, it went up slower in some neighborhoods than others, but like it's not like you just drive 20 minutes in one direction and then all of a sudden the prices drop off $200,000. Like
No,
that's not the case unless the neighborhood you're in is $4 million and then you're driving from that, like it's not that easy to find affordability if
no.
like just by continuing to drive out, because
Right.
at this point you're driving an hour to an hour and a half outside of the city, and it's not to another municipality along public transit lines,
Right.
it's out
Right.
into the woods.
Yeah.
um,
No, that's very, very true. And I think that huge spike has obviously it's obviously going to level off at some point, and we've seen
yeah,
it level off starting in like I think April, May is when we started to see a little bit of that leveling off, and it's become more apparent. Like we talked about last month, we're not going to know the data until a month from now, and now we've seen the data, right? That there's
right.
been this leveling off.
And funny enough, it always comes out about the first week of the month. So
Right.
about the time we do this next month, we can look back and see like, okay,
Right.
what are the percentages over? What are the homes of the percentages that are selling under their list price? And that's going to be a huge deal. Like this is everything I'm talking about tomorrow is like as buyers, as sellers, how do you deal with this? What
Yeah.
do you plan to do? And like now that now that the articles are coming out, everyone's watching it.
Right,
Everyone's trying to predict what's going to happen further, which is why we're having all those people saying crash, crash, crash.
right. Which I
Because
mean, that's to me, that's like I hate that kind of fear, like
yes,
that crazy, like, let's create this level of fear because the market is crashing and things are changing. Let's
right,
be, I mean, one of the things that I think is super important to understand is that we throw this word recession around a lot as if it's
right,
some, oh my God, it's like this great, crazy, like dangerous, awful thing. But recessions are a natural part of any economic, of
right,
the economy, right? Things
right.
go up, things go down. We have inflation, we have recession. It's not like having a recession means that everything goes to hell in a handbasket. I mean, we had a recession where things got really, really bad, but we've had
Totally.
recessions in the past where that didn't happen and they didn't last as long and they weren't as noticeable for a lot of people. So,
And recessions are historically defined as 2 quarters of economic decline of
right,
the GDP.
right,
So, like, and that's the thing is, it's like, yeah, we are very likely in a recession
sure,
currently,
right,
you know, and so, but that doesn't necessarily mean that prices are dropping all over the place. I don't
right.
know if, like, if you're going to the grocery store and the gas station and everywhere else, like I am, those prices are not coming down. Um,
No, we're still in
yeah,
an inflationary period, and that's probably not going to change anytime before the end of the year.
No, but what is happening is that interest rates are going up and they're
Right.
doing exactly what they're meant to do, which is cap this
Crazy.
madhouse, if you
Yeah,
will, of prices skyrocketing. So it's actually having the intended effect of buyers that I'm talking with now are going, okay, no, like nothing over 850, nothing over 600,
right.
nothing over 550, and that's good for all of us
Yeah, I
because
mean, I think yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I think it's really important just to mention, I think it's really important that we understand that it is not necessarily to our advantage as
right.
real estate agents or for the economy to have prices be so outrageous. Like, yeah, it's great you get all these offers on your client's house and they're ecstatic, but the torture our buyers have been through in the
Right.
past few months is it's the worst I have seen since I've been in real estate
Totally.
for 23 years. And I I've been saying this for like I think I've been saying this since like 2016. I welcome a normal, stable real estate market.
Yes.
I welcome it.
Yeah. Why do you
Like
welcome it, Kim? What's the
because
what's the big reason?
the big reason because like I love the opportunity to have buyers be able to negotiate on houses and be able to afford houses and sellers still be selling their houses for decent prices,
See, I
right? It's
was my one word for that for why it's a good thing, predictability.
well, right,
Honestly. But
right,
quite honestly, like the market has been so unpredictable as to
yes,
what things are going to sell for, how many offers they're going to get, what's all this going on, and like there's someone commented and it just says my name, so hello, thank you for joining us, that housing prices will be dropping. They just haven't dropped yet. And I
they
agree with that. They will.
they will,
Because what we're going to start to see is more predictability in what a home value is worth, what buyers are willing to pay for that home, and
right.
what kind of work needs to be done in order to get that price that you're hoping to get.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Completely true. And I like the I love that word predictability. Like there's nothing wrong with having a market where there's a little bit of this push pull, like where you know
Right.
sellers get to negotiate and buyers get to negotiate. It's not all one-sided. Um,
Right. Your 28-year-old roof should probably be replaced before you
right.
sell your house. Your
Yes.
30-year-old hot water tank should be replaced before you sell your
Right.
house. And the fact that for the last 6 months you've been able to get away with not doing that if you sold in that period doesn't mean you're going to get away with that next month
Right.
or 3 months from now.
Right. And I also feel it's really important to talk about the fact that people who own now who maybe bought the last few months or bought the last
Yes.
few years don't be scared of the fact that your prices are going to drop because
Right.
that's, you know, this is the way the market works. Nothing stays the same. It's not a question of where your house is a month from now, 2 months from now, or even a year from now. It only matters when you go to sell what your house is.
Yes. And we say that nearly every
Right,
single
right. We
episode
say
that
it
we
every
talk
single
about
time.
this.
Right.
Your home is an asset, but it's also your home, and
Right.
it's not going to be turned back into an asset until you go to sell it.
Right. Right.
So like you can't borrow the entirety of your equity in your home.
Right.
Even if you did a HELOC, you can only do 80%, but like, yeah, those prices are going to fluctuate, and that's part of a healthy market, you
No,
know,
totally. And the
where,
value you get from owning a home isn't just in the money you make when you sell it,
right,
right? I
right.
mean,
It's the stable payment that you had that entire time
right,
instead of having to worry, is my landlord going to raise my rent
right.
$1,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rocky just popped in and said, "I love even markets for my buyers. They haven't had it for 10 years." Rocky is correct.
That's pretty true, and that's so this brings up this goes back. I want to go back to the like crash mentality, let's call it that.
Okay.
um every friend that I have, we're all millennials. Most of my friends are millennials.
Right.
We all grew up through the 90s, and we all lived through the recession, um or the last housing crisis,
Right.
graduating college. I graduated in 2006,
Right.
and so like that was the
Before, yeah.
time, right before that. So it was like, cool, gonna graduate, gonna get a big kid job, gonna buy a house. And then all of a sudden it was like, nope, that's not happening.
Right.
And so everyone that I work with and know, that's always the conversations. When are we gonna get that big crash so that I can go out and buy my house finally? And I hate to break it to you, but
That's
like,
not happening.
yes, prices will go down, but affordability is not, like, things are not going to become a bargain overnight. Things are
Mm-mm.
not going to become a bargain probably in the next couple of years.
No.
I don't see it. Like, I don't see it the same way we saw it before. We don't have a massive amount of inventory of new builds that are waiting to come on the market, that are
No.
just going to sit on the market and push prices down.
No, we definitely don't, and that's a huge issue, and I mean, that's one of the biggest
Right.
issues in this city is that we are cramped for space,
Right.
and we are one of the few cities in the country that has a few of the major cities in the country that has the highest percentage of single family homes than
Right.
other major cities, and we have this fear of density in the city. Like,
Yes.
people are so afraid, like, "Oh, no, if you put that duplex or that, condo or that apartment building in my neighborhood, my prices will go down and it will deteriorate my neighborhood." And I'm like, "That is just, like, excuse my language, complete and utter bullshit. We
Agreed.
need more density."
100% agreed.
Yeah, we're never going to solve the affordable housing crisis without more density, and this is the contributing factor to why prices in the city will probably never depreciate to the point where it will be affordable for your average home buyer because we
Right.
just don't have the density. And even if we got to
Right.
the point where people agreed with it and were willing to make those changes, it was going to take us years to catch up.
Right.
Years to catch
But
up.
I mean, even just using, I do a lot of like napkin math, and so my numbers are going to be slightly off. But even imagine you bought your house 3 years ago.
Right.
You were planning to refinance in 5 years, or sell in 5 years or whatever. If you
Sure.
bought 3 years ago, your 3 bedroom, 2 bath house was probably, let's say, around 515, 525 in most neighborhoods around Seattle that
Sure.
aren't Queen Anne, North
Maybe.
Capitol Hill.
Right.
Like,
Right.
adjust 100% for those neighborhoods. But
Right.
like, okay, so let's say you bought it for 550. You've owned it 3 years. You still owe about 530. Your equity in that house is now 800 to 850.
Easy.
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 So to get to where we were, in 2008, when we were at the bottom of the crash, people were being pushed out of their homes by their lenders because they owed more money than the value of the home.
Right.
So that means in order to get the same thing to happen now, those values would have to come back down to 500, 550.
Right.
And I don't see that happening.
No,
I
and
just don't.
no, and let's also take into consideration that the market that we've been in since 2012 or 2000, maybe more like 2013 and 14, has
Yeah,
been a market where in order to be competitive in this city, you have to put down 20%
right.
or
Right.
more. And
Or
and
more.
pre-recession of 2008, the amount of people that were buying houses or getting loans with 0% down, zero money down loans. Can you believe that even existed? like
No.
no doc, zero money down loans. I'm like we have to take into consideration that the shift in the mortgage industry and the restrictions we've put on predatory lending and the fact that we live in a city where in order to be competitive, you need
Right.
cold hard cash means there's very few people buying houses in Seattle with 0 down, 5 down, 10 down. I mean, I would say 75% of our buyers are putting 20% down or more. Oh, Roy, you kind of froze a little bit there. So I'll just continue talking until Roy reboots. Um,
There you go.
So until Roy reboots, maybe he'll come back in. Yeah. So when you can't, when you have to put down all that money to in order to afford a home in the city, it is going to be extremely hard to get below what you owe on your home and go into foreclosure. We're just not going to see those things, even if we do have a recession. So it's going to be very difficult to get back, as Roy was saying, to that 20 or that 2008, 2007, 2009 period where people were basically forced to sell their homes because they couldn't afford them. So hopefully Roy comes back. I'm going to just keep going. If people have questions, pop them in the stream and we'll see if we can get Roy back online. We have my name came back. I wish we knew what my name was. Mentioning that Seattle housing went down 40% during the fallout. That is correct, 30 to 40%. Does it seem now they think it seems reasonable to expect at least 30% correction in the next recession? I will be honest with I'll be honest with you, my name. I don't believe that's going to happen. I do not believe we're going to see a 30% shift in prices in the next recession. As I was saying earlier, this is not the same recession as the one we had in 2008. The market conditions are completely different. There's no predatory lending. Most folks who bought their houses are not buying them with so little cash down that they can't afford to. Oh, here's Roy. That they can't afford to keep their houses. Hi, Roy. Oh no, we need some sound that we can't afford to. I'm sorry. I'm answering my name's comment on the fact that they think that the prices might crash 30% in the next recession, and I was saying I just don't see that happening. I don't feel like we have the conditions that we had in 2008 or 2007 to create that kind of scenario again.
I agree.
So, yeah.
Something that I talk to my clients about all the time is like, in order for that magnitude of thing to happen, we would need to see people leaving at a faster pace than they've been coming here for the last 7 or 8 years. So in order for that to happen, we need Amazon, Nordstrom, Boeing, Microsoft, all to not just stop hiring, but leave. We would need all of those people to leave and try and sell their homes at the same time in order to build the type of marketplace where we would see such big drops in price that would be sustainable. So that's the other thing. We might see dips. We definitely will see dips, and we will see case studies where a home listed at 1.1 because their neighbor sold at 1.1 and then sells at 895. Like, that is going to happen. There will be individual instances where that happens, but is it going to be a county-wide, city-wide situation? I don't think so. There's not enough inventory in order to make that happen.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we had an overabundance of building that we were doing back then, like a huge boom in building that we did in the mid 2000s, so that when the crash hit, we had so much new construction that was like on the market that people just couldn't afford to buy, and that also created this like deep dive in prices because that stuff was selling in fire sales all over the place because builders were like, I gotta sell this stuff, right? So we're not seeing that. We're definitely not seeing that now. We just can't build fast enough in the city, like we said earlier. So, and then Rocky also joined in and said that the last crash was caused by the housing market, which is why it was so severe for housing prices. Good point, Rocky. This recession is not the same thing, right? The recession we're seeing now isn't being caused by a housing crisis or the housing market, right?
Right.
There's so many other factors: the pandemic, supply chain issues, inflation that was caused by the pandemic. I mean, the war in Ukraine is probably having an impact as well on the
Right.
global economy. All these factors are different factors that impacted the market last time. Totally different.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like that. Like that's why I think it's more important to think about this as it would need to be a mass exodus out of the area in order for that value to go away. Because even if people stop buying, like even if everyone says, you know what, I just can't afford to play in the market right now, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to go and list their house for lower than they wanted
Right.
to. They're not going to list their
They're just
house
going to stay
unless they
put.
have to, right?
Right. Right.
They're going to turn it into a rental because what do you know? The rental market is wildly, expensive right now, even though the regulations are what they are. Like I don't know. I just don't see it happening in
No.
a fire sale type of way.
No, I definitely don't. So let's talk really quickly because we're getting down to the wire before we start talking about a little bit about price stuff. I think just really quickly, I want to focus on what is it that we could see. I think what we could see, like you mentioned earlier, is more stability, predictability in the market. Your house might not sell in multiple offer. It might not sell the first week in the market.
Right.
You might have to negotiate on that roof that you have to negotiate on or wouldn't have had to negotiate on a year ago or a few months ago. I also think for buyers, yes, the interest rates are higher, but don't be afraid to jump in the market in the next few months if you've held off because of the intense competition, because I think that competition is going to weaken quite a bit. Like I said, we've already
it is too. And also with buyers, let me tell you this, because I'm working with buyers right now. I am always working with buyers and with sellers, but be practical in what it is that you want. Remember what it is that you want in a house and understand that even if we have the ability to negotiate, we're not going to be in a situation where a seller is going to change out all the carpet in their house for you or do a major reno. If there was one that I saw recently where when they redid their plumbing, they notched a bunch of the beams in the floor. They're not going to fix that to sell you the house.
No.
Walk away. Like, don't buy that house. You know what I mean? Like, that's more practical. Like, you need to be practical. Yes, you're going to get a deal. Yes, you're not going to have to, waive your financing and waive all of these other contingencies in order to win against 25 other people. That's the deal. That's winning a house.
Right. That's a deal, right? In this market. Yeah.
But we might get some closing costs back. You might get a little bit of cash back in your pocket, or be able to negotiate on price, 1%. Who knows? But like, it's not going to all of a sudden turn into hungry hippos for buyers, going out there. And I guess that's what it's been. It is more anyway. Screw the analogy. Let's move on.
Right. No, I think that's the point that, like, as a buyer, don't assume if the market slows that means that every seller is going to be like day 2 on the market or day 1 after their offer review passes. They're going to be giving you the house at $50,000 under asking price. Like
that's what I meant. Yes, that is yes.
Happen, right. But you might not have to compete. You might be able to do your own inspection. You might be able to negotiate on that inspection. And you might be able to get closing costs back or maybe do a little bit of negotiation on price. But let's not, like you said, there's not going to be fire sales. At least I don't predict that happening. I mean, anything can change because we don't have any crystal balls here last I checked. But I don't predict that happening.
Rocky said too, thank you again, Rocky. Interest rates are higher, but now you can actually get a house.
Right.
And that is the difference. There's not a panic of, okay, we're 3 weeks in, we've written 4 offers already and we've lost all of them, coming in last place. And now it's like, oh, wow, we went and saw 4 houses. 2 of them missed their offer review this week. These are actually pretty decent houses, like now it becomes easy.
Right.
Or at least a lot easier than it was.
Right,
Yeah,
right. And let's realize that as we go through this curve of a recession, deflation and a recession, at some point those interest rates could start to come down again.
totally,
I don't expect it to
totally.
happen till maybe next year, but it's going to happen at
It
some
will,
point.
and there will still be other ways of financing too. I mean, that's another thing
Totally.
too. Is you might, anyway. We won't get into that because we're not lenders.
No,
Call
that's a
us.
whole
We're not
nother
great lenders.
conversation.
Um,
So
yeah,
before we wrap up, I do want to do a little Pride, have a little quick, talk
yes,
about the fact that it's Pride Month. We're all very excited about Pride Month. I think it's been since 2019 that we've been able to celebrate Pride officially
yeah,
in this city.
yeah.
So it's going to be probably a little wild.
Oh yeah. I, Selfishly, I was looking at the calendar for White Center Pride down here,
That's
which is this weekend coming up,
yay.
and there is a lot of stuff scheduled. They're selling wristbands in order to get discounts at the bars and shops around here.
Yes, awesome.
A Diva Dweller. Oh, yeah, of course I'm gonna blank on her name. One of
Jenna.
our Diva Dwellers is DJing one night. Um,
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Oh, shoot. Cookie.
Old Witch.
Cookie
Is it?
Couture.
Oh yeah, Cookie Couture
Not
is
only
DJing.
Cookie is
Yeah,
DJing one night. Yes, I did see that Cookie Couture is going to be DJing. That's amazing. Yeah,
it's gonna be super fun.
I'm excited about that. We're probably going to try and make an appearance of all the
Cool.
other crap we have to do at White Center Pride. So, if you're there in the afternoon at some point later in the afternoon, you might see Roy,
Yeah,
myself, and Chavi roaming around, checking it out.
totally.
Yeah, there's also, of course, tons of Pride events happening Pride weekend,
Yes,
which
which
is
is the
the
weekend of the 26th, right?
26th, right? Yeah,
Okay,
25th,
cool.
26th. Of course, there's the parade. I know they're doing the Broadway street fair again,
Cool.
Capitol Hill. And our own Donatella Howe, Michael Juvet, will be hosting,
Ooh.
will be I think he's going to be at Westlake doing announcing for the Pride
Oh,
Parade.
cool.
Michael, correct me if I'm wrong. And he's also going to be on one of the stages at the Pride Fest on Broadway.
Oh,
One of the things he said is there's like doggy drag, a doggy drag event. So if you want to dress up your dog and bring him to Pride, I would love to do that to Hollis and Daisy, but they'd probably eat all the other dogs, so that's not going to happen.
maybe Peppercorn would probably be amenable to that. She
Oh my
loves a
God,
good
Peppercorn would be great. You should dress her up and bring her to doggy drag contest. She would probably love it.
I love that. That's awesome.
So yeah, so there's tons of Pride stuff happening. And just go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh no, I just wanted to make a quick note to talk about one of the things we wanted to talk about is that yes, Pride is all about fun and festivities and partying, but it's also a time to remember that there are issues that still impact the LGBT
You're going right where I was going.
community, right? With
Yes.
the fair housing issues. So
Right.
did you have
Well, yeah. I mean, like we're in a really wild space right now where our Supreme Court is being really shitty, and and the things that they are ruling on right now, as far as abortion and as far as gun rights and human safety, could easily sway protections that
definitely
a lot of the LGBTQ community has gotten in the last 5-6 years.
Right,
And part of
right.
that is, Chavi brought this up the other day. Our current equal housing opportunity laws won't cover the LGBTQ plus community if anything gets overturned. In Washington State, it will. We have some
Right.
protections
We
there,
are protected in Washington State, right?
but
nationally,
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's 18 states that either have no protections or they have protections that will immediately reverse if gay marriage is overturned.
well, I that could be correct. I know there's only 28 states that have any kind of protections at all.
There you
So
go.
that the rest of the states have no protections, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So and some of the states, you are correct, just like with abortion rights, some of the states might be vulnerable to having those laws be impacted if it's overturned by the Supreme Court. or
Right.
challenged by the Supreme Court for numerous reasons. I mean, if you're in a conservative state, right? I
Right.
think in Washington State, we're super protected. We are lucky when it comes to abortion rights and, fair housing. We are very lucky in Washington State. We
Absolutely.
codified those rules, but some states are not as lucky.
Right. And that doesn't mean that we all get to sit on our hands and be quiet
No,
about this
exactly.
either, because it's not just us. We are a
Right,
united nation, or a United States, if you will, not just Washington State,
right.
Idaho, Oregon. Also, while we're talking about it, I don't have you been seeing the news of what's coming out of Texas right now, where they're talking about banning children from drag performances.
Yes, totally.
Um,
Isn't that ridiculous? Oh
it's
my
super
God.
dumb. It's super dumb.
It's
Like,
the fear of drag queens. I don't really understand where this comes from.
me
There have
neither.
been drag queens around since the 1900s, people. Why are
Yeah.
we all of a sudden scared of drag queens? I mean, like, come on. And that's the interesting thing. Like in 2019, we went through this whole like trauma of all the drag queen story hours being
Right.
challenged and being like attacked by the right
Right.
wing
Which
folks like
was drag queens reading stories to children in public
in
libraries.
libraries,
Yeah.
right? Public libraries in the middle of the afternoon. I
Right.
mean, so and that's all been a little bit put on hold because of the pandemic, but I wouldn't be surprised if this shit comes burning up all over again now
Yeah.
that we're back doing Pride celebrations. Maybe not this year because they haven't had time to organize, but don't be
Right.
surprised if next year the Proud Boys are back at it challenging anything that involves kids and drag queens, which like story times
Yeah.
or public events that are family oriented.
Right.
So
Well, it's an easy target.
it's an
It's
easy
an
target.
easy target from a demographic that is relatively small and, relatively unprotected. So, it makes it easy for bullies to go and pick on the weakest,
Right, right.
you know, which
So
doesn't mean we have to put up with that.
right, yeah. So I just think during Pride Month, let's just not party and celebrate. Let's also remember that it's time to donate to these organizations that are working
Right.
on rights for gay and lesbian people, to support fair housing in any way we can.
Right.
Oh, well, kids were just murdered in a state that they are worried about. Oh, what? I don't know anything about that.
That's the
oh,
shooting.
The school shooting.
oh, right. Oh, we were talking about the shooting. Yeah, right. Oh, he's talking about Texas. Right. Yes, true. Right. Kids are just murdered in a state where they don't care about someone 18 walking in and buying a gun, but God
Right.
forbid kids go hang out with drag queens.
Right. They're probably safer hanging out with the drag queens than they are hanging out at their own school, unfortunately.
Thinking about it. I mean, the worst you're going to get is drag queen is hit by a fan. I mean, let's be honest. So,
Hit by a sharp criticism.
So I just think it's really important during this time that we do everything we can to be aware of the issues that impact LGBTQ community.
Right.
You can donate to an organization or just remind your legislators and your senators and your representatives, especially if
Right.
you're in a conservative state, that these issues are important to you, especially during Pride Month.
And remind the companies you work for and support financially by buying
Yes.
things from that this is not just an issue for June because you put up a pretty rainbow flag in your background. Like, this is an issue every single day.
Thank you. And also, one last thing before we go, just because some company puts a pride flag or a rainbow flag on a piece of advertisement does not mean they're gay and lesbian friendly. Because just
Right.
like with Martin Luther King Day, people love to like jump on the bandwagon of, well, look, we support pride. Yeah. What are your worker rights like? Are
Right.
you LGBTQ friendly? Do you support organizations that are homophobic or do you support candidates that are homophobic? That stuff is super important. So don't be wooed in just by a pride flag on someone's advertising. Make sure that you're supporting organizations that truly and companies that are truly LGBTQ friendly in all ways, not just in one or two ways. So
Right.
that's my soapbox for now.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
So go out and have a great Pride. I'm excited to celebrate Pride. And we might be celebrating Pride in Seattle. We might be celebrating it in Long Beach because they're also having a Pride Fest in Long Beach. We'll see.
That's awesome. And yeah, if you guys ever want to talk about real estate stuff, you know how to get a hold of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks to the folks who are tuning in. Thanks to my name and Rocky for jumping in and chit-chatting with us during
Yes,
this
thank you.
time. And yeah, if you ever have a question you can DM Roy or I, or pop a comment right here about what you want to hear about next month, because we're probably
Yeah.
gonna hop on in July. Not the first week in July, because that's the week after 4th of July. So maybe the second
Right.
week in July, we're gonna hop on and do another show.
Cool. Yeah. And you can always find this through our email list, which hit us up if you want to be joined to that, or go to our website, teamdivarealestate.com, to sign up for our mailing list, or follow us on Instagram or Facebook.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Or
Thanks.
subscribe to our YouTube page and
Subscribe
you
to our
will
YouTube
get
channel, right.
notifications when we
right.
go live.
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Have a great
All
day.
right. Thanks all. See you later.